Hey, all, good Sunday night. Welcome to Bowling with the Fef, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel. Hope you all had a great weekend and are gearing up for the Christmas holiday. This is our last show before Christmas. Hopefully all of you are up to speed, up to date on getting gifts ready and things like that. And I hope you, if you do celebrate Christmas, that you get everything you want, that Santa's good to you. Both in the gift department and in the bowling department. Perhaps they intersect. But it's a pleasure to have you on this evening. A little different than the normal time that we do this show, but an exciting one nonetheless. And I hope you enjoy it this Sunday night. So we've been talking about the 2021 Pba Awards that have been coming out, and we found out on Friday that the 2021 Chris Schenkel Player of the Year is Kyle Troop, so congratulations to him. He, of course, won twice this year, PBA Players Championship and the playoffs. Also set a single season earnings record with $496,900. PBA, of course, announced that on Friday, so congratulations to Mr. Troop on your Player of the Year award. Of course, Bowling with the Fef, as you may know, is brought to you by Chip Magnet. It's a local company here in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. They make salsas, they make relishes, they make sauces, they make all kinds of food products, and they distribute it to 38 different states and Canada. If you are in the Wisconsin area like I am, you can find it at fine grocery stores like Festival Foods, Woodman's, Sendik's. If you're in Texas, we're not in any of the grocery stores there just yet. However, if you're interested in trying some of the best salsa around, you can order it on chipmagnetsalsa.com online. So be sure and be part of the salsa takeover as we head toward the Christmas holiday. Of course, it's always a little bit brighter when you got Chip Magnet salsa. Chip Magnet, raise your snack standards. So tonight we have a great guest who is actually coming off a weekend bowling event, which is pretty exciting. His name is Shawn Maldonado. He was a finalist for PBA Player of the Year this year. He had 2 tour wins this season. Also is the proud holder of 13 regional titles. Shawn, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, how's it going? I'm doing good. How are you?
Very good. Thanks again for coming on. You had an event this weekend, as I mentioned, PBA 50 and PBA Houston Emerald Doubles, where you finished 4th with your partner, Dino Castillo. Tell us about the event. How did that go for you?
The event went pretty good. I mean, I enjoy bowling with Dino Castillo. He's a longtime friend. I've known him for 17 years. We bowled together before, but this is his first PBA 50 senior doubles event, so it was really exciting to bowl with him. I normally bowl with Rick Manier, but I promised him that once he turned 50, that I would bowl the first member senior tournament together.
Sure.
We did it, and communication was there as always because we have long chemistry there. So communication was there. We bowled good. We bowled pretty much the same thing the first day, and then the second day, which was today, we qualified 3rd. But then today, he actually bowled really good today. I kind of struggled a little bit. Well, I don't want to say I struggled. I just couldn't shoot any high scores. Where he was able to put up some big numbers, and I was kind of just shooting my 220s, 230s, 220s, and couldn't get nothing going. So unfortunately, we finished 4th. We didn't get the win, but we finished 4th. So all in all, it was a good weekend. It was a good trip for him.
I noticed that the field seemed to be really stacked. I mean, you had teams like, Tom Hess and AJ Johnson, Beef and Barnesy were a team there. Of course, you had the winners, Paul Fleming and Anthony Lavery Spar. Is that event usually, bringing out the big names like that, even from out the area?
I've noticed, and I've noticed that every year the field gets stronger and stronger. I don't know who's bringing them out here. Kind of mad at them for a little bit, but the field definitely getting stronger and stronger. But that's good though. I enjoy it. I'm glad the guys are coming down here to bowl in my hometown. So it's awesome. Congratulations to Anthony Lavery and Paul Fleming. Anthony Lavery's bowling really good this year. He's got 3 regional titles this year. So congrats to him.
Sure. We've got to, get into your year, of course. You had a great one, like I mentioned before, 2 national titles, your first two. And of course, you ended up as a finalist for Player of the Year. Tell me which feeling kind of dominates right now. Is it the disappointment of not winning, or the pride in knowing that Kyle put up a great season and that you're just happy for him and what he did?
Well, I was just happy that I was a nominee. To be honest, I knew I didn't have a chance to win with the year that Kyle Troop had. I mean, he won an amazing amount of money this year in earnings, and he started off really good, and I was just happy to be on that list. So I didn't really have any expectations, but I'm happy I got my 2 titles though this year.
Yeah, I bet. Tell me about how you think the sentiment is for two-handed players right now, given that among these nominees is Kyle Troop, is Chris Vi. It seems like more and more two-handed players are becoming more in the mainstream.
Well, every time I see a youth event or I go to a youth event and check out these bowlers, there's so many two-handers now. There's even a few girls that I've seen bowl two-handed, and man, the future is looking pretty strong. I mean, not just the two-handers, but the kids in general. They're good. They're athletic. They're capable of just doing a lot of different things than what I'm used to seeing. So I'm actually excited to see what the future holds. I might not be in it for long, but I'm excited to see what it's going to look like.
Sure.
How it's going to plan out.
Yeah. Well, young players that you're talking about all have to start somewhere. And, you, of course, did as well. How did it all start for you in the sport of bowling? I've heard that you started when you were just 2 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my journey started with my parents, of course. They bowled leagues 3-4 times in a week, and my dad would go sub sometimes. So I was always in the bowling center as a young kid, and at the age of 2, I would go in there with my bowling set and bowl in the carpet in the game room or something like that. And if they gave me lanes, I was out there till the whole time they were both from the beginning to end of the start of end of league. So I started there. The ball was pretty big, so I started 2 hands, of course, with a 6-pound ball. And as I got older, I would try to switch to 1 hand, but my dad actually told me to stay with 2 hands. And I wanted to bowl 1 hand so bad. Like I would go practice and have the high backswing and throw it as hard as I could. And my dad would come over and be like, "What are you doing? You need to throw it 2-handed." Like he would actually get after me for throwing it 1-handed. And so I stuck with 2 hands, and with the ball being so big and me being so little, I created a unique style of kind of like hopping after I throw the ball and stuff to generate ball speed. And even though that's not what I use it for now, it's just a unique habit that I've picked up from muscle memory. So
sure. So, obviously your dad and your parents being early inspirations, for you in the sport. Were there any other coaches that kind of helped set your foundation back then?
Mentioning that's why I started coaching this past couple of years in 2020, 2021, I started coaching. And what inspired me to do that is I had no coaching, no professional coaching, or nobody who bowled in the professional level to coach me or anything like that. So if I could go back to myself as a young, like me, and then go back to my young self, I would focus on mechanics and stability and repeatability and all kind, stableness and stuff like that. But when it was me and my dad, we would just focus on what do we got to do to strike. It's either throw it harder, hit it, create more revs, whatever the case may be. But it was never from the foul line back. So I never had no coaching. The first time I actually had a lesson was with Sean Ryan out on tour. He was a hammer ball rep at the time. He's with Storm now, but he was a hammer ball rep at the time. And I had my first coaching lesson for like maybe 45 minutes or an hour at the age of like 32, 33.
Wow.
So, yeah. So most of the stuff that I've learned is, through observation, experimenting, trial and error and stuff like that. I mean, But I've gotten a little bit of advice here and there. But as far as like a coaching lesson or somebody to work with me, I've never had that.
Wow. Was there a junior program somewhere in Houston that you were involved in?
Yeah, I was involved in some youth programs. I mean, the coaches were just, two-handed back then wasn't really a big thing. So that it was hard for somebody to come and tell me what to do. And if they did, they'd be like, "Man, you need to throw it one-handed." I mean, this is not going to work. They would tell me at the age of like 20, I wouldn't be able to do it anymore. So, um, I rarely got advice.
Wow.
And if I did, it was negativity as far as like I need to throw it one-handed.
Okay. When you say it was negativity, I mean, is that something that kind of, made you take a step back and say, whoa, you know, am I even doing the right thing here? Can it be intimidating to get that kind of reaction?
Sometimes I know for a little bit, when I used to go to some youth tournaments back then when I was like 13, 14, I would go in a little bit almost embarrassed sometimes because there was a point where I was getting it all the time. Why do you throw it like that? Why do you throw it like that? I was literally, it was me and my brother actually, but we were the only ones that were really throwing it two-handed. And we would go travel with like regional youth tournaments and stuff like that, and we never saw any two-handers. So at first I was embarrassed, but once I get to striking, what can they tell me? I'm striking.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm doing it wrong, I'm doing it wrong. But I was striking, and after a while, it didn't last long though. After a while, I kind of I didn't worry about it anymore.
Sure. Yeah.
But
You went to high school at Klein Oak High School in suburban Houston. Did they have any kind of organized bowling program or bowling team for you?
when I graduated, they started bowling. They started bowling clubs a year after I graduated. So didn't have none of that. I really didn't have no like urge to do any college bowling or anything like that. Well, plus I was unique, and I guess I was afraid that they were going to try to change me so much that I just didn't want to do any college bowling. I went straight to like adult tournaments and trying to make money and uh, traveling at the TAT tournaments when they were huge in Las Vegas and the mini eliminators and the high rollers and stuff like that. That's what I was doing in the beginning. But
Sure.
yeah, no college, no high school clubs or anything like that. I didn't have any of that.
Sure. But despite all that, you got your name out there in the Houston area when you were 16. You ended up shooting what was at the time the Houston city record for high series with an 878. Tell me where you did that and what you remember from that day.
That was I was six. I want to say I was 16 years old. It was at a travel league, youth travel league. It was at Armadillo One here in Houston or Pasadena, but yeah, pretty much here in Houston. And you bowl two games, and then you move pairs and bowl another two games. So I shot 290. I remember this. I went spare sheet for 290, 300, and then another 10 in a row and shot 289 or something like that. For or 288, I'm sorry, for 878 series. And I was using the X Factor from Storm. And yeah, that's pretty much all I remember. It's so long ago, but I do remember it though for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I just remember I couldn't miss. It didn't matter what I did. I just couldn't miss. It was weird. 33 strikes in a row or something like that. I just couldn't miss.
Sure. Were you still at that point really the only two-hander like in that traveling league?
Yep. I was the only one.
Wow. How long did it take before you saw another player, either two-handed or just no thumb in general, that you thought, wow, this is somebody else that is doing it something like I am, and impressed you?
Oscar Palermo when he bowled Walter Ray on TV. It was the first time I saw another two-hander. It's the first time I've heard of another like really good two-hander, and I was like, oh dang! And he was real physical, real strong when he released the ball, and that's kind of how I was doing it in the beginning. I was just trying to just murder the pins and try to just make them fly everywhere, and that's what he was doing. So I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm gonna go out there on tour, but me and my dad would watch PBA bowling on Saturdays and Sundays all the time. So, when they first came out, I remember always saying, or my dad always telling me, "You're going to be on there one day." And I'm 8, 9 years old, and I'm like, "Yeah, I can't wait. This is going to be awesome." I was like, "I'm gonna win out there for you." And it's funny how it all happened 20 years, 20 years later. So
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so you go out on tour. What, kind of gave you that sense that, hey, I'm going to fulfill this prophecy that my dad told me back then. I'm good enough to compete with and beat the best in the world.
well, I did have a little bit of help from Delmar and Mike Holland. He used to put out some PBA patterns for me, and I just kind of wanted to test I always wanted to practice on the hardest stuff. I conditioned myself back then. I was a practiceaholic. I would always work out, go practice, work out, go practice, and then he would put out shots for me, and I always wanted to test myself. And I tell him, put out the hardest shot, put out the hardest thing you got in your, and I would practice on it. And then when I would go bowl tournaments, it just seemed so easy because I would bowl on that tough condition back home, and I was bowling very well. But when I first went out on tour, I was just confident. I was just a confident person. I knew I belonged out there. I knew this is what I wanted to do. If anything, I was kind of upset with myself that it took me so long to go out there to do it. Um, I would always ask my friends for advice, and I'd be like, "Man, should I go out on tour?" And they'd just be like, "Dude, you're making good money out here, and that why go bowl against those guys?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I guess you're right." So I mean, it made sense, but I kind of just my whole thing was I just wanted to bowl against the best and try to be the best. So
Sure.
I should have went out there a long time ago,
Did you?
like Simonson age. I wish I went out there like Simonson did at his age.
Yeah. Did you start out with regionals and then go to the national tour, or kind of mix in the regionals after you started on the national tour?
I actually started. I mean, I bowled some regionals here and there as an amateur when you can cash twice or something like that. But and I did fairly well. But I joined the tour at the end of a season. I bowled the World Series when it used to be in December, and I did really good there. I did really good there. I think I cashed 3 out of 5 events or something like that, 2 out of 5, and then I did it full time, the regional and the national tour. From there on, I just did it full time.
Oh, okay.
So
I spoke with Adam Barta about you. He told me he's bowled both with you and against you, and he told me, hey, he's a great guy, very personable, down to earth, and funny. He's kind of the guy that is like the Freddie Couples of golf. Everyone loves him. Is that something that that you strive to be just because that's who you are? Do you see a competitive advantage in being a nice guy who kind of keeps it light?
that's just me. I always sometimes and my wife gets a little bit after me on this, but sometimes I help people during my competition. Uh, and I'll just be like, hey, what comes into mind really fast is I was bowling I want to say the Players Championship. I was on crossing with Don Barrett, and he was so close to making the cut. And I was like, hey, man, I don't think that's the right ball. I think you need to switch or do this line. This lane's drier. You need to do. And then I think he ended up making the cut. I think he was last. And I think he barely got in. But besides that, like I just like to help people. I'm a nice person. I'm very competitive at the same time. So sometimes if things aren't going my way, maybe I'm not the right person to talk to at the time, but that's pretty much anybody when they're not bowling very well. But I kind of get over it pretty quick, and I'm very approachable. I like to talk to people and help people out, or just share some information if they want some advice or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I'm just a nice person.
Sure. So Dom ends up making the cut. I mean, has that kind of thing ever backfired on you, where somebody leapfrogs you in a competitive situation, or do you know when to kind of hold?
It hasn't. It just, I don't know. I just don't like seeing people struggle sometimes. Like I said, I like Don Barrett a lot. So he was on my pair, and it happened with me with Chris Vibe one time. We were at the U.S. Open, and me and Chris Vibe was just like, "Hey, let's communicate, and we can both make this cut." And I just like to see people succeed, So we shared information throughout the whole tournament. I want to say we both cashed.
Oh,
That's when I made the show actually at the U.S. Open. I did very well, but I want to say he cashed as well.
okay.
But,
Yeah. You also got to know Eric and Amanda Vermilia when they lived in Texas. They told me that you're a quiet guy, but a very tough competitor. They say you're good at staying in it when the lanes don't play the best for you, and of course, when it plays to your liking, watch out. How do you stay in it when the lanes maybe aren't exactly the way you'd like them to be?
I believe it's just a little mentality thing that I like to do is where I like to just, even if I do have it, I like to just learn as I'm competing. I think if you go in learning, staying as far, I mean, just like zoned in as far as like I'm going to learn what's going on and just focus on that. Not trying to strike, not trying to do anything spectacular. Let's just learn and execute, learn and execute. And um, I've kind of always just been like that, where I just don't get too ahead of myself. And there has been times where I've done that, it will it will penalize me if I get too ahead of myself. Like I won't do very well. But if I keep myself in a zone where I can just focus on learning and seeing what's going on, even if the lanes aren't for me, I can kind of stay in it, or get myself close to the cut, or whatever the case may be.
Sure. So you were Southwest Region Player of the Year in 2014 and 2015. And on the PBA Chameleon Championship show earlier this year, Randy Peterson mentioned that at one point you won 4 consecutive regional titles. When was that? And how did you manage that string of success?
Man, that was a nice hot streak that I had going on there. I don't know. I don't know how it happened. I don't have an answer for that, but I just know that and it was with different balls and different angles. Like I was doing different things when I won these tournaments, and I was just throwing it really good at that time. I was working out 3 hours a day. I was practicing 3-4 hours a day. I was putting in a lot of work, and it definitely uh, it definitely showed. I definitely got the results that I was looking for with all the work put in. Sometimes you put in the work and you don't get the results. Well, I was putting in the work every day. I mean, giving it 150%, and it showed. So I gotta definitely give it to me putting in all that work, and it was tough. Man, I put in a lot of work. I'm proud of myself sometimes.
And that seems to be the common denominator with a lot of the pros that I've interviewed is that, there's kind of this feeling, okay, if I can outwork everybody else, I'm going to succeed to the point, that I want to get to. Is that kind of the mentality that you've gone through in your career on tour?
In the beginning, when I'm not saying I'm old now, but when I was younger, I was able to do those things. I didn't have any kids at that time. I'm sorry, I had one kid, but I had a lot of time for myself. He was in school or daycare, and I used my time wisely. I worked out and practiced, and I traveled on the weekends, and I bowled tournaments, and I always stayed active. So yeah, I was able to do it. So I did it. It's not like that now, but I definitely was able to put in a lot of work. And I think all those guys on tour at one point in time, they were putting in a ton of work. So they understand what it takes.
Sure. 2016, that's a pretty big year for you. You made the show at the US Open as the 4 seed. You win 2 matches, and then you run into Francois Lavoie, who was on our episode 19. He throws 300 against you. That's kind of crummy timing, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and especially that major show that I made. It was my first live show, so I was really nervous. I mean, I felt the nerves every shot. And the nerves really never went away, but I was still able to execute with the nerves being there. Uh, it felt good at the same time, but I actually thought I was going to win that show. I mean, I was throwing it really good. I was comfortable, even though I was nervous. I was comfortable, and I knew what was going on the lanes, and the plan that I had was playing into effect. So I thought I was gonna win that show, but 300, I can't do nothing about that.
Yeah. What is bowling on TV like for you? I mean, you said you felt the butterflies, you felt the nerves, but yet you were able to work your way through it. Not a lot of guys can do that.
I like it. I just like the pressure. I mean, whether I succeed or not, I enjoy it. I think I accept it. I'm like, oh yes, I'm nervous. This feels good, and I accept it. But then once I get on the lands, I have the ball in my hand. All that kind of. I don't really think about that anymore. Like once I determine I'm nervous, that's it. I accept it. I'm nervous. So that's it. Oh, and there's nothing else you can do. You just focus on what's going on out there, and you throw the ball. And that's what I do. I think some people they get nervous, not particularly the shows, but if they're bowling a big tournament, whatever the case may be, they get nervous and they just don't accept it. They're like, "Oh my God, I'm nervous. Well, what do I do?" You know. Whereas me, I'm just like, I'm nervous. I admit it. I'm not trying to hide it, and I accept it, and I move on.
Yeah. So later on in the year, you come back with a 300 of your own, but it's in a little different format. It's in a Baker game with the Dallas Strikers, who end up taking the Elias Cup, and you're with Bill O'Neill, Tommy Jones, Norm Duke. Tell me about, did you really need to have chemistry and feed off each other in that setting, both to get that 300 and to end up taking the title?
Absolutely. I mean, that was a fun time. That was great. And the atmosphere at Portland, man, they're great. They're loud. You feel it. You can feel the vibrations throughout the building, and it's fun. And then the chemistry with the team. I mean, me and Tommy Jones were roommates out on tour. We go in a group, and he's one of the roommates out there. And Norm Duke's Norm Duke. Everybody gets along with Norm Duke, and Bill O'Neill is a good guy. BJ Moore, me and him, great friends out there. So the chemistry was really good out there, and we just had fun. We had fun. Shot the 300, won the Elias Cup, and man, that was a great year. That was a great one.
Yeah. So eventually the pandemic starts, and that affects everybody in a different way. How did that affect your bowling, and how were you able to stay sharp in it?
I gained a lot of weight. I mean, I probably gained like 15, 20 pounds, and I just packed it in. I was like, you know what? We're going to be here for a while. Let's just eat. And that's what we did. That's what I did. And I get a call from Coley she calls me up and says, "Hey, you're in the strike derby." And I'm like, I think I'm eating when she called me. This phone, she's like, you're going to be on the strike derby. Are you able to make it? I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. When is it? She's like, it's going to be this date. It was like 21 days. And I ended up calling Tom Doherty right after that phone call. And I'm like, man, we got a problem. He's like, what's the problem? I was like, well, I'm on the strike derby. And he was like, that's good news. I'm like, no, I'm like 20 pounds overweight. I don't even think I can fit in my jersey. He starts laughing and he's like, you got to send me a picture. So I put my jersey on, sent him a picture. I mean, it's tight as can be. It's uncomfortable. And immediately that day I was like, I got to go run. So like 20, literally every day until I left, I was running every day. I was jump roping, eating a little better. I was trying to cut off some weight. I ended up losing like 15 pounds in 3 weeks. I mean,
whoa.
I was so weak. I mean, I still wasn't conditioned because I didn't have no access to the weight room. So I was just losing weight, but I wasn't really gaining that much muscle. So I wasn't conditioned in that aspect. So when I went out there to bowl the strike derby, I threw like 3-4 shots and I was already out of gas. I'm like, I can't do this. So I don't know if you saw the show, but I threw 4 shots and I'm like already breathing hard. And I'm like, there's no way I can. And I ended up losing. That was the first one out. So there was no way. No way.
Yeah, that's a different kind of event. I mean, even for those of us just, watching from the sidelines, yeah,
Mm.
you're grabbing different bowling balls. You're basically just trying to get shots off before
And,
that buzzer.
and especially for me, I have to wipe the ball off. I like to wipe my hand on the side of on the side of my pants and then get set. I couldn't do that. I had to pick the ball up and go. So the ball was slipping out of my hand. I'm losing my breath. I have no timing. Like it was tough. So kudos to the guys that can do it and do it, looking good with style. I couldn't do it. It was hard.
Yeah. I've heard you ended up changing your delivery a little bit late in 2020. Is that true?
Yep. I've used my thumb as a two-hander my whole life. I started like that from the get-go. And we had that pandemic, and this something I was. I remember now. I was practicing at Copperfield Bowl, it's my hometown center. I was bowling on the red square. It's a 1-to-1 flat pattern ratio. It's a flat pattern, super flat, really hard. It was 30, 38, 40 feet or something like that. It was really hard, really demanding condition. And I was throwing it really good. And this is just practice. I'm by myself. But I'm throwing it really good, and I'm shooting like 190, 20, 20. And I sat down for a second. I'm like, man, what the heck? Like, this isn't good because there's some guys out there on tour that can at least shoot 220, average 220, 230 on this, especially by themselves. You're kind of creating your own, breaking down your own shot. So I decided to take my thumb out. Now it was just one lane, but I was just messing around with it. And I threw 18 in a row. And I'm like, wait a minute. Maybe I should do this. So it was with the WebMB. It had a thumb hole in it, and so no weight holes without the thumb. So I was wondering if the thumb hole was giving me an advantage. So I went to the car, got another WebMB, a blank one, just put 2 holes in it without the thumb hole to see if there was any difference. And there was a little difference, but I still went another 18 or 17, 18 in a row. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. This was like October. Yeah, this was October, and I practiced. So I did it in October. I made the switch. I fully committed in October. Ordered a bunch of balls, drilled a bunch, plugged some thumb holes, balls that I already liked, and threw that. And I did my first, not professional tournament. I did my first big tournament as far as prize money. It was $10K for first. And it was the first tournament that I've ever done with no thumb. And like I said, I fully committed. And I went in knowing that if I did bad, I was still going to continue doing the no thumb. I was like, I'm just going to figure it out, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And I ended up winning. I bowled Simonson in the finals. And I ended up winning that tournament. And then 4 weeks later, I bowled another big tournament prize-wise with Dino Castillo, Snowman doubles, and that paid like $18,000 for first, and I ended up winning that as well, or we ended up winning that as well. Oh. So I was super excited about this transition to no thumb. Yeah. So I take after that week, the Players Championship is going to go happen, the $250,000 for first. Well, that week on Wednesday, I went to go practice. And I hurt my back. I went straight to the ground, had a bulge disc in my L4, L5, and I had to miss. I had to pull out the Players Championship. Oh, so with the confidence booster going on, and I'm throwing it really good. I'm getting more and more comfortable with taking out my thumb, because it was, even though I'm still delivering it the same, taking the thumb out was so foreign for me because I've used my thumb for 30 plus years. Sure. So. Yeah. So winning those tournaments, I was ready, and then I had to miss the tournament.
Yeah. So that brings up a couple of questions. First of all, do you drill your own stuff typically?
I do. Yep. Yeah. I've been drilling my stuff since I was 18, so probably about 17 years I've been drilling my own stuff.
Okay. And when you talk about, committing to it, and even, in practice, taking out the thumb and throwing all those strikes, did you have to change anything else with your physical game, or was it just simply take the thumb out, put it on the side of the ball, and let her rip?
Yep, just take my thumb out and just the only thing that was different is I was so used to my thumb hold was tight as a two-hander and I would kind of just flick it off my hand. So I had this motion that I did at the release that I was kind of doing without my thumb, which was not good because there was no thumb there to exit. So sometimes it would just fly out my hand. Uh, so sometimes fly out my hand. I would just miss it completely right. That was probably the only thing that I would do. Especially in the beginning, that was one of the errors I would make. Even in the World Series when I won my first title, I did that where I had 6 in a row and then I leaked it to the right. It just flew out my hand. I went 3 count. But yeah, I mean, I didn't have to change anything physically, really.
Yeah.
The reason I had to change physically is because when I hurt my back, now I'm not as low when I get to the line, so I don't release it close to the line anymore. I'm kind of more upright for back purposes.
Sure. When it comes to the different types of adversity you may have faced over the course of your career, where does that back injury rank for you?
Oh man, it's the worst. Uh, it played a deep self-esteem. Like my self-esteem was bad. I just didn't think I could bowl ever again. I mean it put me out mentally, physically. Thought about retiring. Um, or not retiring fully, but like taking like a year or two break. And I was down. I just remember being down, and my Tom Doherty, and DJ Archer, Dino Castillo, Tommy Jones. They would call me all the time, especially Doherty and DJ. They were pretty much calling me every day and checking on me and saying, "Hey, you're gonna bowl soon. Just keep getting up and keep doing what needs to be done. You need to bowl the TOC in 3 weeks." And I'm like, why I can't even walk. You want me to bowl? And they kept pushing Doherty and DJ. They kept pushing me. I didn't want to bowl the TOC, and they pushed me to bowl. They said, "Come out," and no practice, and I went out there, and I mean, it started from there. I was cashing in all the events, most of the events. I was making money. I was bowling good. I don't know how, because I'm used to preparing myself. I'm used to putting in work, and ever since I hurt myself, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And it's actually been working out, but
Yeah.
I can't explain it. I can't.
So, you talk about, that Chameleon Championship, that event in Tampa. So you've got this eliminator type format on the show, and you get to the final and you defeat Jacob Buttroff and you get your first win. Tell us about what that show was like for you and how good it felt to hit that peak that you had never hit before.
It felt like a dream because like I said earlier, I didn't prepare. I didn't have no preparation. I mean, I bowled the TOC and I bowled some tournaments before that, and I did really good. I won the regional out before that in Florida. So I mean, like I said, I was bowling really good, but to be honest, I didn't understand why. But I wasn't gonna complain or anything. But I win that Chameleon show, and I was bowling really good. I was throwing it really good, and I wasn't even really thinking. After a while, I wasn't really thinking about my back because I always was thinking about my back. But I think I had so much adrenaline on that show that I couldn't feel anything really. I just couldn't feel anything. So that's definitely a good thing with all the adrenaline. I wasn't able to feel it, so I was able to focus out what was out in front of me instead of like worrying about my back every second.
Sure.
But
Yeah. You shoot 250 in that championship match. And then, we saw that nice moment that you had with Tom Doherty, after the win. You talked about how he checked up on you. He told you, you're going to bowl. If you had to describe, the kind of relationship you guys have, and now to achieve success at the same time where you're both winning multiple titles in the same year.
yeah, it was great. I mean, I wouldn't want to have it any other way. I mean, I stayed at his house. We played tennis in between times. You know, we were always together. We talked about bowling afterwards from qualifying to kind of see what was going on. We kind of help each other out. And, you know, when he was bowling phenomenal. So he didn't need any information from me. I mean, he was just in his own world doing his own thing, striking, you know. But afterwards, if I was having some issues, you know, he would tell me what he saw and what he was doing, because we weren't really that close to kind of be able to keep talking to each other. Sometimes he would come over and check up on me and see how I was doing, and then sometimes I'll go over there and kind of see what he's doing, because he's bowling so well. So I kind of want to get a look at what he's doing. Sure. But man, it was great. I can replay that. I can replay that event in my mind over and over and over. I mean, I was super happy, excited, weight lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah, you said you finally got one, and you mentioned that, you know, you really do this, you know, for your wife and for your kids, for your family. Mm-hmm. How cool was that to celebrate with them after the fact, after you get home, you know, with the check and the trophy?
You know, it was in the beginning when I won, it was hard to hold it back. I mean, I was pretty emotional because I do this for them. I mean, yeah, I get up in the morning and I'm active and I'm doing what needs to be done for them now. You know, it's not about me anymore. As far as doing what I love to do for a living, I've given that to myself. But with that, you know, I do it for them. And I want my daughters and my daughter and my sons to know that, you know, you do what you want to do, what you love to do. If it's going to make you happy, do it, because I want you to wake up every day enjoying what you're doing, you know. So
yeah. And then, you know, over the summer you do it again. You win at the Lubbock Sports Open, where you also had a second place finish 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. So is there something about that center that just kind of grooves with what you're trying to do?
I love that center. You know, I've always bowled pretty good there. I'm not gonna say I've never bowled bad there, but for the most part, I've always bowled fairly well there. And I was doing something that was just working. It was clicking. I was lofting it, throwing it up high in the air, and just kind of just having a nice touch with it. And it gave me everything from pair to pair. It was consistent. I didn't really have to do too much different from pair to pair, but, you know, and normally when that happens, you know, you kind of got it. And, you know, once I recognized that I have it, you know, I had to just take advantage of it. So, hats off to Jake Peters. I mean, he put on a heck of a fight, and, you know, he made it interesting. It came down to the end, and in the 10th frame, I kind of got one left a little bit, left the 5-pin, but ended up sparing it to shut him out. So, just another unexpected win for me, you know, knowing that I just not, you know, don't put in no work. So I haven't been putting in work because of the back injury. So these wins are just kind of surprising.
Yeah. The Vermilias said, you know, when I asked them about the wins, you know, they said it was so great seeing him win because they've seen how hard that you've worked in the years past, and having that pay off is truly amazing, and that you really deserved it. So, you know, what does it feel like on your end to know that you're getting that kind of support, you know, from folks like Eric and Amanda in Minnesota and people, you know, across the nation?
It's awesome. It's great. And, the support, I always tell, you know, I tell my wife all the time that the support I get, you know, even outside the family, people that do believe in me and root for me and hope for success for me, it does feel good. You know, I thank people every time that I see them. I appreciate it, because it does help. I believe it. The energy that's being sent my way, it does help. So every time I get a chance, I always thank anybody that supports me.
Sure. So your bio on the Hammer page says that you bowl every weekend, and you know, this weekend, of course, must have been pretty nice to have a big time event in your local area. Mm-hmm. But are there typically lots of opportunities for you in the Houston area, or when there isn't a PBA regional or a national event, do you find that you have to drive or fly even to get?
There's normally a bunch of events, not just here in Houston, but I do have to drive Dallas, Oklahoma, Louisiana. There's always something kind of going on a weekend. So to stay active, I do make these trips and bowl these tournaments, whether it's a amateur or PBA tournament or house shot or a sports shot, whatever the case may be. I do go out and support these tournaments and bowl these tournaments.
Yeah.
So, but there's something always going on.
You mentioned about the coaching as well. How often do you do that? And what's it like to have somebody who really benefits from, your skill set, your knowledge, and passing that on to them?
I enjoy it. Like I said, I was inspired because I never had it, growing up. So I coach pretty much anybody from high school bowlers to league bowlers to senior bowlers, college bowlers. I have a college kid that I'm working with, and when I'm helping them out and they kind of really understand what I'm trying to get them to do, and they do it, and they're like, "Man, Shawn, this feels good. It feels effortless, and it makes me feel awesome." Because I wish I had that when I was younger, and to be able to give these kids something to work on, or something to train with, or whatever the case may be, it makes me feel good. I always try to share the knowledge. So whatever I learn, and I'm still learning, but whatever I learn, I like to share it. So.
Yeah. The 2022 Pba Tour schedule is out, of course, and the World Series of Bowling is in Wauwatosa here in the state of Wisconsin. That's where I am. So for the first time, I didn't see a listing for a Chameleon Championship on the schedule. Does that mean that there isn't a chance for you to defend your title and repeat?
Oh man, I'm not sure, honestly. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I mean, the schedule is out, and sometimes they add things at the end, at the last minute. Sometimes they just put some stuff on there. So I'm kind of hoping that that's what they do. But honestly, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they have planned for that.
Yeah.
But hopefully it comes back. But if not, unfortunately, I can't.
Yeah. Plenty of other events, in that World Series as well. But of course, they start out again with the Players Championship. How much are you looking forward to, to getting back into that in that huge event?
I'm looking forward to it because I missed it last year, and it was the biggest prize event that I was ever going to bowl for, as far as $250,000 for first. And like I said, with winning some of those tournaments that I won before that, leading up to that, I was super confident and hurt my back and missed it. So I was, like I said, I was in a bad spot mentally. So, kind of creeping back in my head, I'm like, man, please don't hurt my back again. Because sometimes I wake up and it's kind of tender and tight, and I'm like, oh no, it's going to happen again. I don't want to miss the Players again. So just trying to stay active and self-management with my lower back and try to keep it healthy, and that way I can make this Players Championship this time go around.
Yeah. How about the PBA League? Do you know how that'll work this year, or if there's a particular team that you'll be on?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. I mean, I don't think I saw anything about the PBA League. I don't know. I know they were super excited about it and they wanted to continue to do multiples. So, so I don't know what they're doing with that. Yeah, I have no information on that.
Sure. How about, your future in the sport? I mean, how long do you see yourself continuing to tour full time or even do the regionals?
Well, sometimes I can be a little mentally negative, and because of my back, I'm like, man, I ain't got much longer. I don't have that much time left. So I'm just trying to just soak in whatever I can, bowl whatever I can now. But I'm gonna try to do it as long as I can. But I'm not, if it comes down to where I have to put the shoes up, and that's what I have to do. But I do have something to look forward to. I want to run a pro shop. Continue to give coaching lessons here in my hometown, and so I no matter what, I will always be involved in bowling, and one way, shape or form. So I will continue to do that.
Yeah. Is it important to you to kind of grow the sport and be a part of that bigger picture of helping bowling succeed in that Houston area?
Absolutely. I mean, I have a huge uh, love for the sport. I grew up my whole life. It's like I know it's like another language for me, and I like to talk about it. I like to watch bowling, and I like to see it. And I like to watch the youth kids come up and strive and see how, you know, see how the sport is growing, and the junior gold and all these events. I mean, it's astronomical number. Like the numbers are huge of as far as participation goes. So I think it's awesome. I just want, hopefully that can transfer over into the professional level, and they have a lot of entries as well on the professional side.
Yeah. Yeah, these bowling communities, they've got to be there to feed into that, and
Mhm.
we all hope that we can do our part in making that happen. I've got a couple comments up here, actually from a local bowler named Max Grabara. He's been hounding me for merch for the show. I'll get to that one of these days. We'll get some bowling with the FEF merch out there. But he also mentioned that bowling is truly about being a student of the game, and when things come together, it's awesome. And I really feel like that's a big part of what's made your story so great is that learning and not going along with the haters, doing your own thing, doing the way how, and that will be successful has really materialized for you.
Yeah, that's funny that came out. I was talking to somebody about the situation, and when I was coaching a student of mine, and I was telling him, throughout this process, I will be learning as well. Everybody's technique is different. I'm not trying to make everybody throw it the same way. I'm trying to help you be successful in the way you throw it. Let's try to stabilize, your approach to the line. So I always consider myself, even though I'm coaching, I always consider myself a student of the game because I'm always trying to learn, even though I'm teaching. So I think that's just how it goes. So it's funny that he said that. I like
Yeah.
that.
So if people around the Houston area are interested in in coming and seeing you for coaching, or even in other places, do you do it virtually? And even if it's only in person, how do they go about finding you and talking to you about possibly coaching services?
So I do most of my coaching, 95, 98, like a really high percentage of my coaching at Copperfield Bowl in my home center. So they have me on these QR codes, and they have me on the monitors to if they want to get a hold of me. I got my email and my personal phone number that they can send me a message and contact me, and then we can set up to have any questions as far as how much it is an hour, or the scheduling part, whatever the case may be. They can get a hold of me, and sometimes some weeks are really, really busy, and some weeks are just, I do about 3, 4 a week, and then sometimes I do about 10 to 15 a week. So
Okay. All in person, or do you do any virtual coaching?
yeah, I do. So right now I do it all in person. I like to take videos from different angles and then slow it down and go over it with the person I'm working with. And so I've only done in person. I think it's easier that way. I think it's hard to do virtual, but I haven't tried it. But that's only because I like to see different angles when I'm working with somebody. I like the front. Go out in the lanes and take front videos. I'm going left to right. I'm behind them. I'm diagonal. Like I'm taking all these angle videos and just trying to stabilize the whole approach. And once we get it, I mean, I haven't had one. I really haven't had one person that I feel like I've struggled with. I mean, we always come up with something, and they have something to work on, and they've been doing very well. So
Awesome. Glad to hear that. So we have a thing on our show that we call Off the Sheet, and that's where we ask you to challenge somebody else in the bowling community to appear on the show. And skill level is kind of irrelevant. We look for people who have a passion for the sport and a unique story to tell. So, Shawn Maldonado, who would you like to challenge to be on a future episode of Bowling with the FEF?
I'm going to challenge my partner that I bowled with today, Dino Castillo. I think he's a great one to talk to. I mean, he knows just about anybody in the bowling community internationally. I mean, he's bowled all over the world. Uh, he's been bowling just as long as I have, if not longer. And I know he has some good stories and insight on things. He has a few pro shops, and so he's in the business as far as bowling. He's bowled professionally. He's now a senior. So he's doing it all. So I think he'd be a good one to bring on.
Yeah, no, I do too. And Dino, if you happen to be watching and you're up to the challenge, please let me know. You can find me on Facebook. My name is Andrew Pfeffer, or you can email me at bowlingwiththepfeff@yahoo.com. So our next live stream is coming up Wednesday, December 29th. We'll be talking with Paul Wolf. He is the head coach of the men's and women's team at Avila University in Kansas City, a relatively new program. So we'll be looking forward to hearing stories about college competition from him. But in the meantime, Shawn, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Happy holidays to you and your family, and continued success on the lanes.
I appreciate it. Likewise.
Yeah. Thanks again. And thank you for watching, everyone. We will see you again on December 29th.